What's up, guys? It's Wade. I am Trash. I'm the coach for the Cryptic Apex Legends team, and I'm here today to help you fix your bad aim. I'm going to go over 3 important steps that will factor into improving your aim significantly in Apex Legends. These are things that I highly recommend that you can change to improve drastically over time. Step 1, what you need to do is you need to dial in your settings. Whether you play mouse and keyboard or whether you play controller, it doesn't matter, but you need to find your sensitivity. On mouse and keyboard, it's a little harder. There's a lot more options, especially with the different mouse hardware that we have. A lot of people play on a lot of different DPI and a lot of different sensitivity. But what I would like to do is find out through a sense calculator how much space you have, how far you plan on aiming, and what direction you're aiming, whether you use wrist aim or arm aim. I personally, when I competed and played on M&K, I switched from 800 DPI to 1600 DPI because there's evidence that shows that 1600 is smoother. And it's very important to have super smooth aim. Now, mouse and keyboard has a lot of different tweaks and different things that you could do to find your sensitivity. But one tweak that I recommend is disabling mouse acceleration and just going in completely raw, the default sense, and seeing if you're over tracking or under tracking. Now, I'm at 1600 DPI, and you can use a sense converter to convert your sense at different levels. A 1-to-1 sense would be 0.67 at 1600 DPI. Now, I use 0.69 because I undertrack a lot, so I need extra compensation. Another thing that you'd like to do on M&K is put your sensitivity multiplier for your ADS at 1. This puts everything at a 1-to-1 ratio so that when you're moving your mouse, everything feels fluid and smooth and the same every single time. Now, on controller, and I play controller too, most people use 4-3 linear, but I can give you a little secret sauce that some people are using that you might find helpful for yourself. As you can see, I'm on 4-1 with linear. That might confuse you because you might think, wow, that's really slow. But if you look at how I aim, it seems to be tracking just perfectly fine. How is he doing that? If you go to your advanced look controls, there's something called bleed through in Apex, and it's something that you can set with your per optic settings here. As you can see, mine are customized, and this might not work for you, but this is something that I can teach you on how your sensitivity affects all these different filters. Most people, when they run 4-1, they run anywhere from 2.8 to 3.2 on their per optic. This affects every single time you ADS with a different optic, how fast your sensitivity is on controller. And this is where you get your bleed through. You can also get bleed through from your yaw and pitch speed. This is how fast you turn left and right and up and down. I usually turn everything else off because I don't like the extra yaw, which is the speed of which you go up and down or left and right, and the ramp up time, how hard you turn your stick in a certain direction, increasing that speed on that ratio, and how much delay there is. I don't like any of that. And same with ADS. Now, you'll notice ADS earning ramp up time. What is that? This is how long it takes when you ADS to go from the direction you're ADSing to another direction. This is full strength, left to right, how fast you move your stick. Now, I like mine at 30%. This might be a placebo effect, who knows? But I find that my aim is super sticky with it turned on. The next thing that you should do is you should ensure your refresh rate and your frame rate are both stable. Something that you don't want in game is some FPS drops the minute you start aiming or the minute you start doing things in game. If you turn on performance display, you could track your FPS and hopefully find a stable frame rate. Now, there's so many different tweaks that you can do to get your frame rate and your refresh rate stable. That's something we'll have to cover in another video. Step 2, we're gonna practice correct mechanics. The one thing that we should mainly be focusing on is the target itself. In Apex, the targets are going to constantly move around. You're never going to have a target stand still like this dummy in the training range. And it's going to be extremely hard to track someone when they're moving, especially with Apex Legends having movement characters like Axel, Ash, Pathfinder, Wraith, and Octane, and other characters that are hard to track when moving super, super fast. So what you should really focus on is where your crosshair is placed. Now, on mouse and keyboard and on controller, there's 2 different outlying factors. What you should be doing on mouse and keyboard is you should be edge tracking the person that is moving. This gives you the most consistent and precise aim when you're tracking someone who's moving. On controller, it's a lot easier because you have to do it for you. As long as you maintain a decent strafe, your tracking will automatically track for you. You also want to manage the tension, both the tension in your controller sticks and the tension of which you hold your mouse or your controller. It's something that you don't want to grip too tightly, as not only will you ruin the hardware that you're using, but you'll also tense up the muscles in your arms too much and ruin the muscles within your wrist and your arm. You want to act like you're floating your hand wherever you're aiming. So if you're a mouse, since most mice are round shaped, think of the mouse more or less as a uncooked egg. You want to not press too hard and crush the egg into your hand, making a mess, but you also don't want to move too slow and too soft to not move the egg at all. The main priority that you should have in Apex should be your smoothness. You want your aim to look fluid and concise every single time that you play the game. And something that's going to help with that is that you are going to practice the same core mechanics every single time. If you set up a training routine, which we'll cover in the next step, it's something to where you can get muscle memory down and things will get easier when you aim. Especially on mouse and keyboard, this is extremely important to practice your recoil control and how each gun has a different recoil pattern and time that you should strafe. Nobody in the game should be standing still, because not only when you recoil control the guns, you get compensated for the direction that you strafe. There's a tool that I'll show on screen that you can use. This ApexRecoilStrafing.com has the recoil pattern of every single gun in the game that has a countdown so that you could practice which direction you want to strafe in to counter the recoil. You could pop this out and put it over your game and practice your recoil control on whatever gun it is. So for example, here, I'm going to pick up an R301 with a gold mag, and I'm going to start my countdown now. Step 3. I want you to start a training routine. Now, there's a lot of programs out there like Aim Labs, Kovacs, or R5 that can help you practice core mechanics in the game. Programs like Aim Labs and Kovacs are usually directed towards mouse and keyboard players, but Aim Labs does have the ability for you to track with controller, and I'm pretty sure Kovacs does too, but R5 is usually the best practice for controller players. Doing something like the popcorn tracking or the strafe tracking will help immensely, including the 1v1s. The last important thing that you should do before every time that you scrim or play the game would be to stretch your arms out before playing and get some motion going. Especially mouse and keyboard players, stretches are super important to help your wrists maintain the cartilage and the muscle tension in between your wrist and your forearm. And I recommend Dr. Levi's video on hand stretches. This could take 30 seconds to a minute to do before game, real quick, or in between games, and it will help your muscles get the proper blood flow and help you maintain the cartilage in your wrists. You should visualize your movements and aim. Visualizing is doing something with your eyes closed and just listening and thinking about how you're going to do it before you do it. Put your hands on your hardware and visualize how you're going to aim before you aim in each game by listening to a clip of you shooting or listening to some gameplay of somebody else and just figuring out what they're doing with your hands. Try to mimic the sounds that you're hearing. This is a technique that F1 drivers and pilots do, help them focus. The science behind all this is based in dynamic visual acuity and sciatic suppression. Your eyes do not track targets smoothly like a camera on a tripod. During a fast flick or when an enemy suddenly jumps, your brain temporarily blocks your vision for a millisecond to prevent a motion blur, or a phenomenon called a sciatic suppression. If you stare at your crosshair while an enemy is rapidly moving, your brain gets caught in the loop of sciatic updates, making your tracking jittery. A lot of top players use dynamic visual acuity, the ability to identify and detail moving objects. What you want to do is you want to fix your eyes entirely on the target's center mass, putting your peripheral vision on the tracks of your crosshair or on the center of the enemy, reducing visual noise, allowing the brain's motor cortex to predict the target's path more smoothly. Another reason why muscle memory is important is that every time you practice a physical movement, electrical signals travel down the pathways of neurons. Repetitive, precise practice triggers glial cells to wrap around those neural pathways in a fatty insulation layer called myelin. The thicker the myelin sheath, the faster and more automatically the electric signal travels. So there's science behind using muscle memory and practice to improve your aim. I hope these are all things that I've taught you today that help in fixing your bad aim, dialing in your settings, and practicing core mechanics. And it's something that will improve you drastically in your performance in game.